I am the Morpheus of money. I started this channel because you need to know. You need to know that you're in a matrix and there's a way out. And you look around and you say, why do the rich keep getting richer? And why do the poor keep getting poorer? And why through these crises that we face, the rich come out ahead and the poor come out behind? I'll tell you something. Dave Chappelle recently was on Saturday Night Live, and in his opening monologue, he dropped some red pill knowledge. And I'll show you a clip in the next video. But basically, he said Donald Trump is an honest liar, and you don't understand why the people love him so much. He said because he tells them the truth. He said, and that debate with Hillary Clinton, he said, I've never seen a rich white billionaire do this before. He said he came out of that house and he said, we're doing everything in that house that you think we're doing. And then he went back in the house because she tried to get him. He said, the system is rigged. And I know it's rigged because I use it. And then she came back at him. She said, you don't pay taxes. And he said, that makes me smart. He said, if you wanted to, you could change the tax code and make me pay my taxes. He said, but you won't do it because your donors and your friends would all not let you do it. Right? He told the truth that we all know, that the system is rigged in their favor. He revealed the secret. Right? Well, in this channel, I'm going to divulge more about that secret. I'm going to give you details. All he said is, the secret that you believe is true. Right? I'm going to tell you what it is. So it's going to take a while for me to unpack, even more than just this one video. But I want to explain to you how the rich people have built the matrix, and you're in it, and you're the energy that they're using you for the energy that they need. Okay, so I'm gonna explain to you how to build wealth over time. Okay, and what happens once you've built that wealth, and how anybody can start from nothing and build wealth. But how once they become wealthy, how they've built a system to keep them wealthy and to keep you not wealthy. Okay, so let's start by how to build wealth. 3 easy steps. Number 1, spend less than you make. Number 2, buy income producing assets. And number 3, don't pay too much. If you do those 3 things, you will build wealth. So let's break them down a little bit. I'm not going to fully break them down, but just an introductory breakdown here. Spend less than you make. And you say, well, that's easy for you to say, but it's a lot harder than you think. And you're right. It is harder than you think. And the system that you're in makes it hard. It deliberately is doing everything it can to prevent you from spending less than you make, because that's how they keep you in the system. But there is a way to spend less than you make. And Benjamin Franklin wrote this book 250 years ago called The Way to Wealth. And to summarize that book in 2 words, he said the way to wealth is industry and frugality. Industry means hard work. Frugality means being careful with your money, almost to the point of being stingy, right? So how do you spend less than you make? Well, industry will help you make more, and frugality will help you spend less. And so if you combine those two and apply those two, industry and frugality, and you're disciplined about it, you can spend less than you make. I'm going to add one more to that list, and that's accounting. Industry, frugality, and accounting. So by accounting, I mean mind your business. Know how much you make and how much you spend, and keep good records of it. And as you keep those records, you're gonna identify places where you can spend more. I mean, spend less and make more. Okay, and you'll have control over your finances if you have good accounting. The second thing that will do, it will introduce you to an income statement and a balance sheet, because that's how you account for your income and your expenses on an income statement, and how you account for your assets is on a balance sheet. So by default, you'll start familiarizing yourself with those 2 financial statements, and that will prepare you for step 2, which is buy income producing assets. Because as you spend less than you make, as you are industrious and frugal, you will become an income producing asset, right? And you will know what that looks like on paper, because you have looked at your own income statement and your own balance sheet, and that will help you to identify other income producing assets, because this is what they should look like. They should spend less than they make, and you'll know what that looks like because you've been looking at your own financial statement every month. Okay, and there are 3 basic categories of income producing assets: real estate, businesses, and credit. Okay, real estate generates an income called rent. Okay, businesses generate an income called earnings. And you could own a business basically 2 ways. That could be your own business that you own, or you could own a small interest in a big business. That's called stock, right? You could be a small owner of Nike or Amazon or Tesla, for example, right? By owning the stock. And either way, you own a business, whether it's your own business that you run or it's another business that you've identified to have the characteristics that you like. You don't even have to run it. You could be a part owner and still participate in receiving those earnings. Okay, so real estate, business, and credit. What is credit? Credit means you lend your money to someone else and they pay you back with interest. And the interest is the income that you earn on the money that you lent out. Okay, so real estate earns income called rent. Businesses earn income called earnings. And credit earns income called interest. Okay, so here's what happens. You're being diligent about spending less than you make, and you have some money saved up. And then next month you have a little bit more. And the next month you have a little bit more. And eventually you have a decent sized pile there. And what do you do with that money that you've saved by spending less than you make? You start buying income producing assets. Whether you choose to buy real estate, business, or credit, or some combination of the 3. What will happen over time is that you will start getting checks in the mail, right? You get your paycheck from whatever you do, but here comes a rent check from your real estate. Here comes an earnings or dividend check from your businesses, and here comes an interest payment from the money you have lent out, right? And over time, that income starts piling up to the point where it's more than you can spend, to the point where maybe you don't have to do the work anymore. Now that you have your assets are doing the work, right? And you still want industry and frugality, but maybe it doesn't have to come from you only, right? If you have a 100-unit apartment complex and 95% of those are rented out, you say, wow, my apartment building is being very industrious. It's 95% occupied, right? And if you're frugal about how you spend that rent income, right, you manage the cost of maintenance and repair and operations and stuff like that. Well, then that building, that rental property, is going to spend less than it makes, and it's going to generate positive income for you because it's being industrial and frugal, and you have good accounting. Okay, so that's the way to wealth. Spend less than you make, buy income producing assets, and number 3, don't pay too much. As you start buying income producing assets and keeping accounting on those, you'll start to notice the quality of the income. You'll be able to compare to and say, well, this one generates more income for what I paid for it, right? And you'll start to see, when I buy these assets, I'm buying them for the purpose of generating income. So my question should be, how much income is it making, and how much am I paying for that income? And you'll be able to figure out, hey, I'm kind of paying a lot for this for the amount of income I'm getting. Or I'm getting a really good deal on this for the amount of income I'm getting, right? And that's how you'll learn how to not pay too much, right? If you put some money into a 1% CD, you put $100,000 into a 1% CD, that means it's going to pay you $1,000 a year. Versus if you put money into a 5% CD, you're going to be like, well, that $100,000 is paying me $5,000 per year. And you could say, man, I paid a lot just to get $1,000 a year. Right? 1%, I don't like investing at that rate. To invest 100 to get 1, that doesn't feel good. To invest 100 to get 5, or to invest 100 to get 10, then I'm not paying too much for my income. So when you learn to ask yourself that question when you're buying these assets, you'll learn to not pay too much. Okay? So that's it. Spend less than you make, buy income producing assets, don't pay too much. Over time, you'll build a portfolio of assets that will generate an income that will allow you to live a much more comfortable life. Okay, so now let's get to the matrix. What do the rich people do once they've built that base of assets that generates an income for them? Well, there's this book called The Theory of the Leisure Class by Thorstein Veblen. It was written in 1899. And in this book, it's very interesting how it was written, because this guy doesn't really have an opinion. He's just stating facts. He's just being an observer. And he says, this is how the leisure class lives. And he's not saying it's right or it's wrong, or he's not condemning it or praising it or suggesting a change. He said, this is how it is. Okay? And he says, the wealthy, the leisure class, the highest honor, or the virtues in that leisure class are wastefulness and futility. Because that is the ultimate display of wealth. If you could be wasteful, you must be really rich, right? If you could just spend all kinds of money on your daughter's wedding, right? I mean, just an ungodly amount. You're like, wow, he must really be rich to be able to waste that much money on that one day party, right? Or whatever it is, their house, their vacations, their lifestyle, right? Extremely wasteful. And it's a badge of honor to be wasteful, because a poor person couldn't be that wasteful. You have to be really rich to be that wasteful, and the more wasteful you are, the more rich you must be. Okay. And the second one is futility, to do nothing, right? There's a story in the book that this very dignified, pedigreed and wealthy man was sitting by the fireplace one evening, and maybe the fire got too high or he got too close, but he caught on fire. And his servant was not in the room at the time. And rather than get up out of his chair like a working class person, he sat there dignified, waiting for his servant to come and lift him up out of his chair. Not because he was incapacitated, but because that is beneath him to get out of his chair without the assistance of his servant. And the guy burned to death rather than get up out of the chair, because he was a pedigreed and dignified man, right? So, and his peers would probably look at that like, wow, impressive. He must be a very wealthy, pedigreed, dignified man. They didn't think, why did that idiot get up out of his chair, right? That is the system of the leisure class, that they promote and they elevate and they revere wastefulness and futility. And there's a third one, was envidiousness. Envidiousness means I'm envious about what other people do. They get the invitation to the wedding, they're like, wow, he must be spending a lot. And they're thinking, not only a lot, but more than I spent on my daughter's wedding, right? And they're envious. They're envious. And they give that look like, right? Those are the three hallmarks of the wealthy, the leisure class: wastefulness, futility, and envidiousness. And here's how they built the matrix. By being wasteful, futile, and envious, and doing it publicly in open display, they make you aspire to be wasteful, futile, and invidious, right? Because I want to be rich like them, and I want to live the life that they have, and I would just like a taste of it. And you might have been industrious and frugal and had some money saved up, but then they're bombarding you with the message of wastefulness, futility, and invidious, and you're like, just this once I would like to dine at the restaurant where they dine. And there goes your savings. Just this once I would like to stay at the hotels that they stay. Not every day like they do, but just once, right? Just this once I would like to experience, what they experience, right? And by doing that, there goes your savings, and your assets are not building up. See how it works? They've designed that system to keep them rich and to keep you poor. And think about the three assets that they own. What is required to make those assets successful investments? What does real estate need to be a successful investment? Tenants. Real estate needs tenants. Without tenants, it doesn't work. What do businesses need to be successful? Employees. Without employees, that business doesn't work. And what do lenders need to be successful? Borrowers. Without borrowers, the lender doesn't make any money. So how do the names of the wealthy: landlord, employer, lender. They're the massa. And the names of the servants: tenant, employee, borrower. And how do they make you a good employee, because you owe, and off to work you go. It makes you a good employee to be in debt, right? You got to show up. You got to show up on Monday, even if you're sick, because you got to pay the rent. And even if even if he treats you poorly at work, you still got to go. You got to swallow your pride and go to work and do what you're told, because if not, you don't get your paycheck, and you need that paycheck because you've gotten yourself bills. You have rent to pay, and you have loans to pay, right? So, and how did you get those loans, and how did you get those bills? By trying to be wasteful and futile and invidious. That's how they trapped you. Wastefulness, futility, and invidious are the shackles that enslave you. Industry, frugality, and accounting will break those shackles. Okay? Go outside and look around. Look around at the world you live in. Look at what you see on TV. Look at the ads on your phone. Look at the billboards. Look at how the cars on the road and the way that people are dressed, and everything on the signs on the street. And ask yourself, what message are these preaching? Or what is the message? And notice, are you being bombarded constantly with the doctrine promoting wastefulness, futility, and invidiousness? And are you being brainwashed? And is it keeping you in the status of tenant, employee, and borrower, and keeping you from ever becoming a landlord, an employer, or a lender? Yes, that's the red pill. And in this channel, I will be your Morpheus. I'm looking for a Neo that wants to escape the Matrix, and I will break down what you must do, and show you where are the traps, and what are the doors that you do need to go through, and what are the ones to avoid. So stay tuned. This will be good.